essentially the idea is, we've been meeting every alternate week to discuss some of the topics we feel are important around community building, and we pick one topic, try to go into detail, and eventually co-create certain learnings from this group, from this community, and publish it, so that not only we learn from these discussions, we can also potentially make future members of this community learn as well.
Recording in progress.
So that's the background, and we've already conducted two roundtables before this, and today is our third roundtable. Both of the earlier roundtables were focused on enabling, like some of the people who were in early stages of their journey of community building. This roundtable, I think at least the topic that we have chosen is relevant for everyone, I would say, especially if someone is already building built a community, because events are a very, very core part of community building today. It enables asynchronous communication, which is very, very critical if you want to really have deeper conversations. It's difficult to have them via chats or forumish platform. So one of the most important part of any community experience is how can you conduct the right events, and conducting right events is not possible without choosing the right formats and right tools. Like in the online world, there are so many tools today that are coming up, and we feel that it's important that we discover the right tools for different formats and different use cases for any community. So let me quickly share my screen, and I'll quickly take you through some of the things that we're going to discuss today. And once we do that, I'll open up the whole the floor for having peer-to-peer discussions, which is the main part of it. But before I do that, I want to take you through why event formats are important, and why event tools are important, and what at least we have been using as Community Hood. So as Community Hood and LikeMinds, we've already hosted more than 50 events across various formats, and these formats have been following roundtable, workshop, panel discussions. Town hall is something that we are starting next week, where we are trying to get one community builder who has done pretty well and try to understand their journey. Monthly accountability challenge is also something that we started last month. It is a small accountability cohort which is divided into 4 weekly peer-to-peer conversations with the same set of groups, where you also try to report what is your focus for the next week and how did it go, and if you need any help, and others in the group if they can help them in any ways. So that is another thing that we have tried out, and icebreaker events are something that we've also tried out. I think this is something that is pending for a while now. We'll probably try to accelerate and have one icebreaker session soon. Some of the platforms that we've used so far as Community Hood and LikeMinds are following, of course, Zoom for not only workshops and fireside chats, but within Zoom there are various things like Zoom Rooms, Zoom Spotlight, which we've used for different type of events. Then there are Instagram Lives that we have done, Twitter Spaces, we've done one chat in past. And then there are for these informal events, there are different platforms that we've explored. There is Gather Round, which is very, very interesting sort of platform for conducting informal icebreaker sessions. We'd love to probably host something soon on this with this group. There is Kahoot, which is good for quizzing. There is Pictionary, puzzle, board games. Lot of these tools are today available for these icebreaker events, and we've used some of them in past. The tools that we use other than these platforms are like, some of them are following. For marketing, we use Webflow to create landing pages. We use Typeform for capturing leads, and then we use HubSpot for sending emails and newsletters. specific for events, we use HubSpot for sending emails. There is another tool, I didn't mention it here. We use Vati for sending WhatsApp reminders to people who register for our events. Then during event, you'll see today also we'll use this tool called Slido for polls. Then for event recording and streaming, I wanted to use keep this as an example. OBS is a screen recorder for local setting, and then you can stream it, post you do that either live or record it for future. I kept microphone because I felt I want to highlight it very specifically that tools are not only online tools but even physical tools that can be used, even though this used to be more important in offline events, but today in online events also something like this is also useful because it improves the quality of audio for especially while if any event is being recorded and it's going to be distributed in future. So this is a small example of our toolkit. We probably have a lot more and would love to get into details of it and understand from you all on what all tools and formats you guys use. But before I open the floor, I'll take another 2-3 minutes on at least share our learnings on how tools and formats we feel, how to decide these tools and formats, what's the philosophy we've taken so far. One thing is very, very sure that as you start building a community, especially if you're building it for scale, it's important that we don't lose our focus on adding value for every single attendee. We have to, it's almost like reverse calculate while designing the event format and deciding the tool. First, decide what is the key value or what is the key intent for someone who is coming and what are the key takeaways that they're going to go home with. So generally some of the things that we've seen so far working well in events in terms of takeaways is a mix of learning, networking and entertainment. So you can whenever you're thinking of any event format, try to measure, try to predict the output and measure the output that will your event be heavier on learning, will your event be heavier on networking, will your event be heavier on entertainment. Of course, any good event ideally has all three, but the mix will keep changing depending on different formats that you want to sort of host, and also the other way around. So if, for example, if you want to have something which is learning heavy, what we have seen, our workshop format is very, very focused on learning, and we sort of deprioritize networking and entertainment for those. We try to bring in those elements sometimes in between, but learning is a key intent in those cases. In this roundtable, I think it's mix of learning and networking. We also feel people get to know each other in this format. That's why we like this format, and it has its own value. Then you also need to think around nature of event, whether it's a live event or a non-live event. So while you'll feel that this is a live event, but when I mean live event, I mean whether it is being broadcasted or streamed live somewhere or not. For me, this is a non-live event which is being recorded. Then you also need to think whether this event, any event that you're conducting, is it a synchronous event or asynchronous event. So asynchronous events are generally those which happen which doesn't need everyone to be present on a real-time basis. So for example, you could always do an AMA which let's say lasts for a couple of hours or more, even in a chat format. So while the Ask Me Anything AMA is an event, but it is not necessarily, if it's a chat based event, it is not necessarily a synchronous event. It's almost a synchronous event. But I think for today's session, whatever I'm talking about, I'm mostly talking about synchronous events. Then there are single events, and then there are sequential events. Certain events are part of multiple series of events. So for example, a lot of people do this course or a boot camp which is divided across 5 sessions or 10 sessions, and then they would ask people to pay for all the 10 sessions together, and then they would do these sequential events. Again, while designing the event, you should also think whether you're designing it as part of a single event or a sequential event. Few more factors that you need to think. I'll quickly run them through you guys. Duration of the event should also be thought through, and of course the flow of the event. So for example, for this event, we've thought that for first 15 minutes we'll do a very, very quick sharing of our learnings, and then for 45 minutes there are few more segments that are already planned. Then you should also think of who are the speakers, how many speakers are going to come, what is the pedigree of speakers, what is the expected turnout in the audience. Are you going to make audience to speak or chat or participate, or none of them? Do you want mutual interaction between audience to be there or not? How do you want the tone of the event, whether it should be formal or informal? Do you want to make participation anonymous or not? So I was sharing this example yesterday with some of our volunteers as well. So this was a beautiful example shared by Shelton, who is community lead of Stoa School with me in our conversations earlier. That one of the events that they did was, where he made everyone to change their name on Zoom and remove their pictures, and made it an anonymous participation event where the topic was a difficult topic, which generally people would not want to talk about with their real identity being shared. So this is also very, very interesting, and it was like how to have difficult conversations with your boss. I think something around that. So some of these topics require you to think whether it is better to have anonymous participation or not, and then think of whether you want to need any slides or not. I think all these things will come handy to think about these questions while designing your format. And for today, as always, we're lucky to have these volunteer leaders who have sort of not only helped us execute this event, but also ideate with us on what is the best practice and what are the tools. So there is Moses, who is co-founder of the Third Pillar Club. He's actually doing very, very interesting stuff around decentralized community economy. He's trying to create a Web3 playbook for community builders to build a sustainable community. There is Neerav, who is founder of Brand Influencers community. He also has a very, very interesting announcement to make. I think he made it with us yesterday, but I'd let him do that maybe towards the end of the session today. Govardhan, he's founder of Niche Marketers community, and he has been running this community, I think, over Facebook, and has a significant number of niche marketers as part of his community. Pratiksha is founder of not one but 3 communities focused on parenting, and these are fairly large communities, on a total of 1.5 lakh members. Then there are 3 more volunteers. Vineet is a community consultant, has been in the industry for about, I think, more than 10 years now. Manohar is a new addition to our volunteer group today. Manohar is a community manager at Mensa, and he's founder of something very, very interesting called 90ml Talks. 90ml Talks is it's his initiative to bring in very, very diverse perspectives around community building and various similar initiatives where people would come in. He will handpick certain people to deliver a talk in a specific format. So his experience on that is also relevant for today's session. And then there is Jayashri, who has been, I think she's been with Apna for a while, but now she's recently sort of started helping one of the other community as a consultant. So hi everyone, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I hope that you guys found value in last 30 minutes from chatting with each other. I will quickly call upon you guys, maybe table wise. Over to you, if you can quickly summarize some of the formats and some of the interesting formats that you could discover from the group and some of the tools.
Yeah, I think the discussion went on well, and there were different kind of people who are into startup communities and parenting communities, arts communities, etc. And the formats like the format in the sense truly the academic sense we're not able to make out of it, but the things which came out like inputs are like the people were sharing is like live events. It's a very common this thing. Then something came up like a hybrid event. They said offline or online combined, like there's an offline and online mode, we combine it.
Actually, in 2008, we had done an event where it was across 5 or 6 cities. I don't remember exactly. So, for example, in Bangalore, they met a time, Bangalore and all. So, in the city, they had maybe 1 or 2 hour session. And then there was a common session of 1 or 2 hours. So, it was like a 3-4 hour event in which 2 hours was with local people and 2 hours was like streamed across.
And actually, Rohit ji also has brought up something about conferences. So yesterday we were discussing a lot, but conferences, that word did not come up in our discussions. But he came up with something called conferences. Like they're also a form of live events. And the virtual world also they go well. So this event formats, conferences, then anything like gaming kind of events, gamification, learning model, the networking model kind of events. Then there are kind of events where you say giveaways and all. So coming to the tools part, I think we had different inputs. Common ones are like Zoom or then StreamYard. Then I came across something called Obliger, Mentimeter, Kahoot, and vConference. I think it's a conference kind of a tool where platform like some media houses are using this kind of platforms where they make you feel like you're in a 3D environment. They make you feel like a stall is there, booth is there. One of these
I think Times has also built in a tool for this.
Yes, we used it in our organization.
That is vContext. That's a Times of India platform, Economic Times.
Right. And then like any of the other sort of platforms came up. So for example, AirMeet or anything.
AirMeet has come up. Mentimeter yesterday also we discussed, I think. Kahoot is already discussed. There's one more platform called Obliger. I think I'm not sure what exactly it is. But that is one more platform which came up in the discussion. Maybe it's about Web3 world or something. Maybe I think Moz is also posting out.
Yeah, it's more like a VR thing, basically.
Okay, virtual reality.
Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. I think this was very helpful, and Moses, thank you so much for summarizing it for everyone.
Okay. So I think in our group, the uniqueness was that people had interesting sharings in terms of formats more than the tools. The tools were kind of something everyone is familiar with, except 2 mentions of GatherTown and Luma, which I would say are relatively less popular. But still, if anybody has looked for an alternative for Zoom or AirMeet, they would have come across GatherTown, which is a little more immersive. And Luma is largely a management tool on all fronts. In terms of formats, we had interesting inputs in the sense that how can you use different features of Zoom to change the vibe or to sort of engage people in a little more interesting way. And that's why I think one of the learnings for me was that the idea of formats is not only limited to what is the structure, it's also how you engage people across those 30-90 minutes that you have. So can you use the virtual background or anything else in an interesting way? And most of us are using Zoom rather forcefully because we are lacking alternatives. I think nobody really said that they are happy with Zoom. They just said that they're using Zoom. But nobody really said that Zoom is mind-blowing or Zoom is doing phenomenal work. And I think Zoom itself would be surprised that so many people are using it because it's not exactly designed for it. So that learning was very evident. And I think people are looking for more alternatives and more interesting frameworks, ideas to do much stuff. That's broadly we could cover.
Has anyone moved away from Zoom, like not making it like the default platform for events? While we have a lot of other platforms, but in most cases they are like one-off, for event experience. Would love to know anyone in the audience if they have moved away from Zoom as the default event hosting platform.
So Nipun, the thing is, the bigger events are hosted on AirMeet and Bevy. So that is the platforms, where we have attended. But when it comes down to smaller events, Zoom is winning hands-on for whatever reasons it is. So there is WebEx and there is Microsoft Teams, but the fact is the way Zoom has, evolved itself and everybody using it. So right now that is one platform which everybody knows about it.
We need small events. What is the small means? What is the small? How do you define a small event?
So Zoom up to 100 people has the lowest membership fee. As soon as you cross the limit of 100, their fee shoots up like anything. Yeah. And I was helping Vanshika in organizing One Celebrate Event 2.0, which was for freelancers. Although we were not able to execute the season 2 because of lack of registrations. And when I was exploring platforms, so the fact is what the amount which Zoom charged or Airmeet charged or any other platform charged were in the similar range for if we wanted 500 people at a time to be there on the platform. So that's
and the experience becomes, is that so? The experience becomes much better on the other platforms once the size is, let's say,
Nipun, the flip side is, so there are a lot of these event and conference hosting platforms where they have the networking table and other things, but they said that you need to have a Zoom account which can be live streamed onto the main stage so that the participants can check it out. So the fact is there was a workaround where most of the other conference hosting platforms need to have a Zoom link integrated. So I was like,
so it's still Zoom doing the main work and then they build experiences around it.
Manohar has an insight. I mean, go ahead, buddy.
Rather than insight, I have a rant. I rather dislike Zoom, and I understand everybody's sentiment that we are appreciating Zoom, which I would also do because 90ml and other things have depended on it. But most of the times as an organizer, you are choosing Zoom because you feel that everybody has it. And the moment you go for an alternative, even if it syncs with your thinking of the format, you are afraid. So you're not choosing Zoom because it's a seamless integration. It's for the reasons people are talking in the chat that there is familiarity, default. But I dislike Zoom. I think it's designed for office meetings and conferences with minimum distractions. In a house party like environment for 90ml, I want colors. I want enough distractions. I want people to break into smaller rooms on their own, which GatherTown attempts to do to a certain extent. But the onboarding process of GatherTown is so bad that people just like Zoom because the moment you click the URL, you're inside the room and you have a little bit of customization. And that's why I feel Zoom must not be prepared for its own, for this kind of a upsurge in usage, because they never designed for the use cases which have come out of pandemic. And I'm really excited where the event technology companies are going. But the problem is, like we were talking, majority of people focus on industry events, and people like me who are curating intimate events don't fit into their plan bracket. They don't cater to us. Like I would like to run a reward scheme as part of the event, because every time when I think of building an incentive into event attendance, I don't have any avenue. I would like to use some sort of analytics where I can give away rewards rather than manually monitoring it. And when it comes to events, I think in an offline environment, it's not the stall, exhibition and everything. It's the reward mechanism that is working. And no platform as of now is really cracking it. I empathize with them, but that's my sweet long rant on not liking Zoom for a reason.
Hey Nipun, I have quick 3 pointers without being the paid brand ambassador for Zoom here. I hope they pay me later, but quick 3 pointers. In terms of, as someone who hosted this virtual event for a certain community with about 220 attendees, paid attendees on that call, 3 things that went terribly wrong because we did not use Zoom, obviously. So one was the fact that in terms of costing, I do understand that we had 220 people, so we could not have fit into the $100 plan, because of which we ended up, and it was a 3-day long connect-a-thon. I don't know kind of label that service provider, so I'll just go by 220 attendees, 3-day long connect-a-thon. We had to get people together in multiple rooms, multiple formats, and therefore we went ahead with a solution that cost us in 6 figures. Now, 3 things that went wrong. One was the fact that the ease of familiarity, right? So we had a lot of people who were joining in from health tech. These are your PhDs, these are your academicians, these are your research scientists. These are like what people who are really good at what they do, but not necessarily as familiar with your interface. So they had to move around with a lot of, acha ye keynote speaker mein jana hai kya? Which room do I go to? Who do I call? Like all of that. Organizers ka phone baj raha hai. Come on, yaar. Are they going to like arrange the event for you? Are they going to take up your calls?
Sure.
But yeah, that was one. So the ease of familiarity, the usage. The second part being the fact that I was anchoring that event and my video stopped working. I am not kidding. That's the biggest nightmare an anchor can have. Like if I were offline, I would have, showed up again somehow. Stage se gir gaye, wapas chad jao. What do I do with video? What do I do with online? I refreshed, did multiple browsers, windows, this, that, nothing actually happened. And obviously, I was that audio voice, like somebody was Mr. India right now. I was that person who hosted that entire concluding day in my audio. So tech was a major glitch. The third part being the fact that I remember this was like last year's event and another platform, not this one. And somebody had wanted to leave the meeting. Instead of leave meeting, they ended up doing end meeting.
Oh shit.
150 people on the call, mind you. And the event ended for everyone.
Wow.
Sure.
But this also sort of boils down to familiarity, right?
Yeah, but like, come on. Like, there are co-hosts on the event. You cannot just end an event for 150 people. So yeah, that's about it.
Got it. Thanks for sharing, Radhika.
In terms of formats, try to look at Zoom itself and use the existing features interestingly. That was the huge takeaway.
Poll was also there in for Priyanka told us about poll was also there.
Correct. And I think there was one mention of show and tell that rather than relying on features, you can also use ideas like where you make people express themselves. Basically, you make certain rules inside the Zoom room where the rules enhance the experience.
Got it.
That's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Manohar. Very quickly calling upon the last room, Vineet and the others. Vineet, if you can quickly name.
Yeah, so hi guys. So Nipun, we had Vijay, Jayashree, Priya, Manil, Gitika, Shelja and Ajit in a room, and yeah, thanks for the spotlight to Jayashree. So basically we discussed a few event platforms, how the events are conducted, and later on when the conversation was like about to end, I said there are a few marketing automation tools which actually let you automate the entire thing, and that was towards the end of the conversation. So I would actually pass on the mic to Jayashree to have the concluding thoughts of what we discussed on the table.
So, like all of us have rightly mentioned, Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, this has been one of the most used tools to, organize events and conduct meetings. Apart from that, so Gitika mentioned she being an educator, she really needs to live stream her classes. So she's using GoToMeetings, Restream. Then again, she's using OBS or I think we are familiar with these tools as well. Then there's Hubilo that we are using. Uske baad, the people are using Microsoft Forms, Google Forms to gauge the feedback of the event. Then like Vineet mentioned that in order to automate the entire event end to end, there are certain tools called live webinar that people are using. You just have to create a simple account and it takes care of sending calendar invites to sending thank you notes. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what live webinar does, right, Vineet? It also sends
I mean some of the processes it is automated, and one of the members on our panel stated it. Yeah, live webinar did that as a tool.
Got it. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and spending your time with us. This helps us curate knowledge for the industry, and as you all know, the industry is very, very young and early in India, and the needs for an Indian audience is a bit different than the global audience. So it's always useful to share and hear the perspective of the Indian community builders.